So I'm going to do this video because I've been wanting to teach some kind of something on this for a while, but it's hard to get everybody together all the time. Everybody's got different schedules. I know I work evenings, and when I'm not working evenings, I'm trying to teach classes, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so I'm going to do this, but I need you to do me a favor. I need you to ignore the mess that's going on over my shoulder. Spencer kind of went crazy with his toys after church today. So, yeah, if you can ignore that, that'd be great. Also, I'm going to move this diffuser because it's blowing right in my face, and you can't really concentrate. So, anyway, I've got some RC going. We'll talk about that. I'll put this behind me. So anyway, I have been... No, let's not start there. Let's start here. So, your body goes through... We're just going to jump right in. Your body goes through 3 different kinds of stress. We've got... Pretend it's a triangle of stress, right? So, you've got a triangle. On the top, let's make it physical. Physical stress, you know, body stress. Chemical stress would be like, I don't know, stuff that you eat, any kind of imbalance chemically, like in your brain or in your body where you're not getting what you need there. And then you've got emotional stress. Emotional stress, here's the triangle if you want to see it. Sorry about my handwriting. Emotional stress. And everyone's usually pretty okay about talking about these two because they're basically black and white, right? You've got stress here, you got stress here. These are things that are safe to talk about. People neglect this going on right here because it's scary. Yeah, and I've always been a generally emotional person, but I just cry a lot. I'm a crier. I've always been like that, as far as I know. Don't really know why. My dad's kind of like that too. It's kind of obnoxious sometimes. Sorry, Dad. Emotional stress. Super important to manage. We're always all about keeping healthy physically, but emotions can affect and change your physical health just as much as anything else. Dr. Caroline Leaf, she's a doctor that doesn't specifically use essential oils, though she's not against them, has said that not managing emotional stress or trauma can damage receptor sites on your cells. Okay, so when that happens, receptor sites are the things that are on your cells so that they can communicate to each other. When your receptor sites are damaged, broken, sick, then your whole body gets sick because your cells can't communicate properly to keep you healthy. So, your emotional health, emotional balance, super important. I'm going to start out by saying that. Don't neglect it. Seriously. Like, you can't. You just can't. My husband is totally not an emotional person. We are basically black and white on that side of it. He's pretty much the rock, which is great, except that there's a lot underneath that we've been working on because he is so, like, reserved, keeps everything hidden. And because of that, it affects his health a lot because he doesn't know how to balance, or hasn't known how to balance effectively, and neither have I, and that's just something that we're working on presently. Okay, got that out of the way. Now, I've been diffusing RC. I'm snuffly. I don't have a very strong respiratory system. I ended up developing asthma later on in life. Not until I was, like, after high school, basically. Yeah, and when I get colds, 3 years in a row now, I've gotten a cold and I've gotten pneumonia. So it's something that I really have to stay on top of. So I've been diffusing RC pretty much nonstop for a couple of days now. And I was noticing, this is really awesome, I was noticing that when I was diffusing, I was either getting sad or I was getting crabby and depressed. And I'm like, what is going on, right? Because this is just supposed to make me breathe better. It's supposed to clear up my chest and my nose and that's it. No. I started researching, right? And RC is made up of 4 different kinds of eucalyptus. I'm on the computer, so I make sure I tell you all the right sciencey stuff. Um, 4 different kinds of eucalyptus: myrtle, spruce, peppermint, pine, lavender, marjoram, cypress. Okay. Eucalyptus and peppermint are the bomb diggity at carrying oxygen to your blood, which is why it helps with so much like clear breathing. When I have specifically like chest issues, it supports that, like lung support. But I started looking more into like the myrtle and the spruce and the pine and the cypress, and I noticed that everything, all 4 of those, was it 4? Myrtle, spruce, pine, yeah, 4. All 4 of them are used. I'm going to focus specifically on cypress though, because this is the one that just blows my mind. All 4 are used for emotional, no, they're all used for grounding. Like, I don't know how else to say it, grounding. Like, keeping yourself level-headed, basically. But cypress is the one that's used for emotional release and balance. Emotional release, did you catch that? Young Living has a blend that's called Release specifically. I'll talk about that in a different video because it's one that really needs to be talked about seriously. But emotional release and balance. Okay. So then I was like, okay, what does that mean scientifically? Like, what does that actually mean? Have you ever, I don't know, have you ever put lavender on your kids or peace and calming on your kids after like a particularly stressful day for them and they've kind of gone off the handle instead of calming down? I know sometimes when I use peace and calming on Spencer, sometimes, not all the time, but especially if it's been a stressful day for him and he has perceived any kind of trauma. I don't know what kind of trauma you can experience as a 2-year-old loved little boy, but especially after a rough day for him, when I use peace and calming, he just goes nuts. He goes crazy. He gets whiny, he gets crazy, like literally, like it's like he drank a shot of espresso. Like he just goes nuts. And what's happening in his little brain, this is gonna click for a lot of, I don't know, for me it just clicked. What is happening is in his brain is the cells that were affected, your cells are affected by trauma and stress. So the cells that were affected by stress are being brought to the front of his mind. Okay. The cells, because of these oils, hello, can you hear me? Because of these oils, the cells that were affected by trauma and stress are being brought to the front of his mind. And they're being wiped clean, and they're being sent back out into his brain. Okay. So, yeah, that kind of causes some kind of like, what's happening, right? So anyway, while I was diffusing RC, I started getting all of these, not getting them, but I started having all of these memories come back that I had completely forgotten about. Stuff that was really like, not that big of a deal if you think about it, but kind of. Like, I remember one that kept coming up, and this is so crazy. When I was like 10 or 11, okay, when I was a kid, I mumbled a lot more than I do now. Like, as a preteen and a teenager, I mumbled a lot more, and I had an even harder time with eye contact, which if you know me at all, you're like, that is not even possible. But I did, and there's this, I'll say relative of mine, that it just made them very upset. So I remember we were at this person's house, and I was telling them a story, or I was telling them something, or asking them something, I don't remember that part of it, but it just made them fly off the handle. They just, like, let me have it about how no one could handle how I was talking to them. No one, it drove everybody crazy that I couldn't look at them, and I couldn't speak clearly, and that no one would ever take me seriously, and everyone thought that I was dumb when I spoke like that. And I just seemed like I didn't even know what I was talking about any of the time because of that. And it's so weird to talk about. I just completely forgot about it. And I realized that I was thinking about this because my body is trying to reject the cells that are still locked in my amygdala that are affected by that trauma. This was what, 12 years ago? 12 or 13 years ago? Something that small? I mean, I know that we all do this thing when we're hurt or we're affected by stress or trauma. I keep saying trauma. I don't really know what else to call it. A lot of people think trauma is like abuse, but it doesn't always have to be that way. So when trauma comes to you, when it comes to your house, and it comes to everybody's house, it visits everybody, we make inner vow and judgments. We promise ourselves something. Like, I will never let that happen to me again. I will never put myself in that position ever again. I will never be made to look like an idiot again. And I realized that because of those inner vow and judgments, I have grown up feeling stupid. I have convinced myself that no one wants to hear from me, which is completely against my base personality. I don't know. It's caused a major identity crisis, and I'm really upset that I'm just now finding out about it to where I can fix it. No one wants to hear from me. No one understands me. No one likes what I like. So I've realized that, like, because of those promises to myself that I made at 10 and 11 years old, I have kept myself from talking to people about the things I love the most, from being myself, from showing people things that I'm working on, from being excited about the things that I love, because I'm just going to be told, oh, that's stupid. Oh, you're dumb for talking this way. You're dumb for blah, blah, blah. And what's so awesome, that sounds so depressing, but what's so awesome about that is when these cells, because of oils like this, when these are tools, I'm convinced now that emotional oils are tools that can be used by God to help you draw closer to Him. Because now that those things have been brought up to me, I can give those things that I never even thought about, that have affected how I've been living since I was 10 or 11 years old. I can give that over to God, and I can say, this is not who I am. My identity should not be based on this promise that I made to myself. My identity is in you, and I need you to help me through this. That was my mic drop. Let me see it. You want to see it closer? Here's the mic. Mic drop, right? So as soon as you find out what those inner vow and judgments are, you can fix them. I mean, you can't, but you can give them to God, and He can. Do you know what I mean? I know this sounds super churchy, especially on a Sunday, like, whoa, Ashley, too much, not what I wanted. That's too bad, because this is the bomb, and everybody needs to know this. So, yeah, there you go. I was going to say something else. Also, if you are working on something, I know this is a major side note, if you are working on something like you're emotionally, mentally, you don't want to slather on a bunch of emotional balance oils and then try to go out in public. You don't want to, like, use Inner Child or Trauma Life, which are both oil blends, and then try to go sit at a football game, you know what I mean? Kind of weeping in the middle of it. That wouldn't be so much fun. But it's something that, seriously, like, do not neglect your emotional health. Because tied in that is your spiritual health. I know a lot of people, that's probably going to annoy a lot of people, but it's a real deal. Like, your emotions, your spirit are what live forever, you know what I mean? So you want to take care of that. And like I said, too, like, if you don't take care of your emotional health, like, legitimately, then you'll suffer physically because of it, too. There are a lot of you on this group. I know all of you now. There are a couple of you that were just recently added, and there are some of you that I don't know as directly, but I know a lot of you deal with anger, simply because of physical issues that you've had, and we'll talk about that on a different time too. A lot of anger, a lot of resentment, and that's something that you really need to work through. So start investing in your emotional health if you don't mind, for yourself, seriously, because it's really important. Yeah, I guess that's all I have for today. I'm sorry it got kind of heavy, but I appreciate you watching, and I'll probably do a bunch more of these because it's a lot easier to do this than to try to get everybody all together at one time. Everybody works different schedules and stuff. So anyway, I'll get off here. I'm going to go do some more reading, and I guess I'll talk to you later. Bye, guys.